The Town of Farmington. Respecting history, planning the future.
The legal voters of the Town of Farmington and those qualified to vote at town meetings of said town are hereby warned and notified that the annual town meeting of the Town of Farmington is called for Monday, April 25th, 2016 at 7 p.m. in the Farmington High School Auditorium, 10 Monteith Drive in Farmington, Connecticut for the following purposes. 1. To consider and act upon the recommendation of the Town Council that the following resolution be adopted. Resolved that the town report for the fiscal year ending June 30th, 2015 be approved. To consider and act upon the recommendation of the Town Council that the following resolution be adopted. Resolved that the budget recommended by the Town Council for the fiscal year commencing July 1st, 2016 be approved. To consider the recommendation of the Town Council that a resolution be adopted. To appropriate $4 million for costs related to repairs to and reconstruction of such various town roads and drainage systems as may be determined by the town manager and the town engineer from time to time. The appropriation may be spent for design, installation, and construction costs, engineering fees, materials, legal fees, net temporary interest, and other financing costs, and other expenses related to the project. To authorize the issue of bonds or notes of the town in the amount not to exceed $4 million. To authorize the issue of temporary notes of the town in an amount not to exceed $4 million in anticipation of such bonds or notes, and to authorize the town manager and the town treasurer to determine the amounts, dates, interest rates, redemption provisions, form, and other details of the bonds or notes, and to perform all other acts which are necessary or appropriate to issue the bonds or notes. To take such action to allow temporary advances of available funds which the town reasonably expects to reimburse from the proceeds of borrowings, and to authorize the town manager and the town treasurer to bind the town pursuant to such representations and covenants as they deem necessary or advisable in order to maintain the continued exemption from federal income taxation of interest on the bonds or notes authorized by the resolution if issued on a tax-exempt basis, including covenants to pay rebates of investment earnings to the United States in future years, and to make representations and enter into written agreements for the benefit of the holders of the bonds or notes to provide secondary market disclosure information, which agreements may include such terms as they deem advisable or appropriate in order to comply with applicable laws or rules pertaining to the sale or purchase of such bonds or notes, and to authorize the town council, town manager, town engineer, the town treasurer, and other proper officers and officials of the town to take all other action which is necessary or desirable to complete the project and to issue bonds, notes, or temporary notes to finance the aforesaid appropriation. Number 4, to consider the recommendation of the town council that a resolution be adopted to appropriate $600,000 for the costs related to acquisition of a pumper fire engine to replace Engine 3 at the Southwest Fire Station and related equipment. The appropriation may be spent for acquisition and commissioning costs, equipment, legal fees, net temporary interest, and other financing costs, and other expenses related to the project. To authorize the issue of bonds or notes of the town in the amount not to exceed $600,000. To authorize the issue of temporary notes of the town in an amount not to exceed $600,000 in anticipation of such bonds or notes, and to authorize the town manager and the town treasurer to determine the amounts, dates, interest rates, redemption provisions, form, and other details of the bonds or notes, and to perform all other acts which are necessary or appropriate to issue the bonds or notes. To take such action to allow temporary advances of available funds which the town reasonably expects to reimburse from the proceeds of borrowings, and to authorize the town manager and the town treasurer to bind the town pursuant to such representations and covenants as they deem necessary or advisable in order to maintain the continued exemption from federal income taxation of interest on the bonds or notes authorized by the resolution if issued on a tax-exempt basis, including covenants to pay rebates of investment earnings to the United States in future years, and to make representations and enter into written agreements for the benefit of holders of the bonds or notes to provide secondary market disclosure information, which agreements may include such terms as they deem advisable or appropriate in order to comply with applicable laws or rules pertaining to the sale or purchase of such bonds or notes, and to authorize the town council, the town manager, town treasurer, and other proper officers and officials of the town to take all other actions which is necessary or desirable to complete the project and to issue bonds, notes, or temporary notes to finance the aforesaid appropriation. To consider and act upon any other business which may come before said meeting, the moderator shall adjourn this meeting, and the resolution presented under item 2 of this warning, as submitted to the annual town meeting or as modified thereby, shall become effective unless rejected, and the resolutions presented under items 3 and 4 of this warning shall become effective only after having been submitted and approved by a vote on voting machines of persons qualified to vote in town meetings on Thursday, May 5th, 2016, between the hours of 6 a.m. and 8 p.m. Electors shall vote at their regularly assigned polling places as follows. Electors residing in the first voting district assigned to polling places 1-1, 1-2, 1-3, and 1-4 shall vote at Irving A. Robbins Middle School, 20 Wolf Pit Road, Farmington, Connecticut. And those assigned to polling place 1-5 shall vote at Westwoods Upper Elementary School, 50 Judson Lane, Farmington, Connecticut. Electors residing in the second district and assigned to polling place 2-6 shall vote at the Community and Senior Center, 321 New Britain Avenue, Unionville, Connecticut. And those assigned to polling place 2-7 shall vote at the Municipal Complex, Monteith Drive, Farmington, Connecticut. Voters qualified to vote at town meetings who are not electors shall vote at their respective polling place at Irving A. Robbins Middle School, Westwoods Upper Elementary School, the Community and Senior Center, or the Municipal Complex. Absentee ballots will be available from the town clerk's office. Said resolution shall be placed upon the ballots under the following headings. Shall the budget for the town of Farmington presented by the town council and recommended by the annual town meeting for the fiscal year 2016-17 be approved? Shall the town of Farmington appropriate $4 million for repairs to and reconstruction of various town roads and drainage systems, and authorize the issuance of bonds and notes in the same amount to finance said appropriation? Shall the town of Farmington appropriate $600,000 for acquisition of a pumper fire engine to be stationed at the Southwest Fire Station, and authorize the issuance of bonds and notes in the same amount to finance said appropriation? Voters approving the resolution shall vote yes, and voters opposing the resolution shall vote no. Dated Farmington, Connecticut, this 12th day of March 2016, per order of the Farmington Town Council. I'd now like to ask for nominations for moderator.
I nominate Christian Hohen Esquire.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Any other nominations? I'm going to close the nominations, and all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Mr. Hohet.
Thank you. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Christian Hoeb. Thank you for your confidence in electing me as moderator of this annual town meeting. The town clerk has read the warning of the town meeting. Before we begin, I would like to describe the procedures we will follow this evening. Your decision tonight on the town's operating budget for 2016-2017 is not final until approved or rejected by voters at the polls May 5th, 2016. Please note that the voters in the referendum cannot change the budget. You can simply vote yes or no. If a majority of those on May 5th, 2016 reject the budget, and the number of those voting equals at least 15% of the number of registered electors, the town council will recommend a second budget, which must be lower than the budget rejected at the referendum. That then goes to a second town meeting and second referendum. If the second recommended budget is rejected at the referendum, the council shall meet and shall adopt a budget for the upcoming fiscal year, which shall be lower than the second recommended budget. This town meeting may increase, decrease, or authorize an additional appropriation that is not in the recommended budget presented tonight. Any increase, decrease, or addition of an appropriation shall require the affirmative vote of at least 2/3 majority of the voters voting on such item, provided that there are at least 300 voters voting on that item, such item. In a moment, we'll check with the clerk's office to determine how many actual voters are present. Additionally, a motion shall recommend the amounts of by which one or more specific appropriations identified by account number or similar designation may be increased or decreased to equal the total amount of the increase or decrease. The recommended budget reflecting any such increases, decreases, or addition of any appropriation that is not in the recommended budget shall be submitted to a referendum. This evening, we have 5 items on the agenda. Number 1, that the town report for the fiscal year ending June 30th, 2015 be approved. Number 2, that the budget recommended by the town council for the fiscal year commencing July 1, 2016 be approved. Number 3, that the town of Farmington appropriate $4 million for repairs to and construction of various town roads and drainage systems. Number 4, that the town of Farmington appropriate $600,000 for the acquisition of a pumper fire engine to be stationed at the Southwest Fire Station. And number 5, to consider and act upon any other business which may properly come before said meeting. We will consider each agenda item separately. To place each of these items before you, I'll call for a motion and for a second. I'll then ask the appropriate town officials to describe the town for informational purposes. I will then recognize anyone who wishes to speak on the motion before us. I ask that you go to one of the microphones in the aisles and begin by stating your name and address for the record. I ask that you keep your comments to the agenda topic and to present them as briefly as possible. If you have a question, please direct the question to me directly as moderator and indicate whom you would like to answer it. Please confine your questions to the topic under discussion and do not enter into a debate. If the comment or question is not germane to the topic at issue, I may rule it out of order. I'll call for a motion to adjourn the meeting to a referendum to be held at the regular polling places on May 5th, 2016, between the hours of 6 a.m. and 8 p.m. Any questions? First motion. May I have a motion to move the first item contained in the warning that the town report for the fiscal year ending June 30th, 2015 be approved? Moved. Is there a second? Did I hear a second? Second. Thank you. Does anyone wish to be heard? Are there any questions about the town report for the fiscal year ending June 30th, 2015? Failing to hear any, I will now call for a voice vote. All those in favor of the motion say aye. Aye. Opposed? The motion carries. The town report for the fiscal year ending June 30th, 2015 is thus approved. Motion number 2. May I have a motion to move the second item contained in the warning that the budget recommended by the town council for the fiscal year commencing July 1st, 2016 be approved? And a second. Wonderful. I'll now call upon Nancy Nickerson, Chair of the Town Council, Kathleen Egan, Town Manager, Christopher Fagan, Chair of the Board of Education, and Kathleen Greeter, Superintendent of Schools, to begin the presentations.
Good evening. I'm here tonight to present the Farmington Town Council budget for the 2016-17 fiscal year. Our budget deliberations and decisions are based on our strategic plan and the goal of continuing to maintain excellent services while being fiscally responsible. The budget we are presenting to you tonight has an increase of 0.68 mils, bringing our mill rate to 25.78, with a 2.7% increase to the tax rate. We have the lowest mill rate of the 22 towns and cities in the Hartford County. Excellent town services and a school system. Nationally accredited police department for 24 years. Our Farmington School District is nationally acclaimed. Education Week lists the Farmington Public Schools as one of the top 25 worth visiting. The next slide shows our tax rate history. Our tax rate increase this year is 2.7%, in line with our 5-year average of 2.77%. our 10-year average of 2.99%, and well below our 15-year average of 3.45%. This is a result of excellent fiscal planning and following a strategic plan that defines the needs and the desires of our citizens. This chart illustrates our grand list growth from 2007-8 to 2016-17, without the reval years. Our grand list experienced its largest increase in almost a decade. I'm proud to report that we continue to have a AAA Moody's rating. This is a result of a stable governing body, fiscal management stability, a strong tax base, funding our reserve account appropriately, and our continued commitment to funding our pension in a responsible manner. This allows our town to have a better bonding borrowing rating. As of December 2015, only 17 towns in our state have a AAA Moody's rating. And over the last few bond issues that went out, because of our AAA rating, we were able to save $464,000. We're strong economically with a healthy tax base ratio. Residential is 73% of our grand list, and the commercial is 27% of the grand list. The economic strength in our town is evident by the increase in our grand list by 1.2%, or over $42 million this year. We have commercial and residential growth and a reinvestment in our businesses and our homes. The Town Council uses three main goals to guide us in the budget process. We believe we have a responsibility to taxpayers to bring a fiscally responsible budget forward and at the same time provide core services to our citizens. We are proud of our schools. People move here because of the schools. We will continue to provide support so that our schools can continue to be excellent. The cost of maintaining the town's infrastructure by funding the capital budget is a necessary expense that has to be recognized in order to meet the town's capital improvement needs. The town's capital improvement policy is to contribute at least 2.5% of the annual general fund revenues to the capital improvement program. The CIP allocation has experienced growth and has consistently exceeded the 2.5% policy funding since 2013. General fund appropriation to support the CIP this year is $2,856,900, or 2.84% of the projected annual general fund revenues allocated to the operating budget. There are three main capital improvement funding themes. One is the equipment, the infrastructure, and the maintenance improvements. Two, the technology and communication initiatives. And three, building improvements and renovations. The CIP includes technology improvements at the schools, the town hall, and the police department, the replacement of necessary equipment for town departments to ensure that high-quality services are available to residents and businesses, and $400,000 for the Farmington High School schematic design to begin the process of the high school renovation. Slide 8 shows the averages of the CIP allocations over the last 15 years. Our recommended fiscal year 2016-17 allocation exceeds the 5, 10, and 15-year averages. It is important to invest in our capital projects now while we can, instead of the problems compounding themselves. We continue to provide high-level services while our population, our infrastructure, and calls for service have continued to grow over the last decade. Our workforce remains stable at 156.6 staff members. The town has done some restructuring and continues to consider more cost-effective and efficient ways to provide excellent services to our citizens. Town services have continued to grow over the last 10 years. The Farmington Police Department has seen a 9.7% increase in 911 calls since 2005. The Farmington Fire Department has seen an increase of 36.34 calls for service since 2005. The Public Works Department has also experienced growth since 2005. We have a 25% increase in the Rails to Trails system. We have a 3.9% increase in the miles of streets that we take care of. And we have a 9.4% increase in the open space acreage. Over the past 5 years, the Social Services Department has experienced an increase in services as well, with 205% increase in the community center events. We have 2 bonding issues this year, $4,000 for road reconstruction. We understand the importance of continuing our program of well-maintained roads. The current plan addresses town-wide road replacement needs. We also have a bond item for $600,000 to replace Engine 3 in the fire department. The recommended mill rate for the fiscal year 2016-17 is 25.78, which is a tax increase of 2.7% or $157.05. Farmington's current mill rate of 25.10 remains the lowest among comparable towns in the area. At this mill rate, taxes on a house assessed at $232,074 in Farmington are $5,825.06, while the taxes on the same value home in a neighboring town would be significantly higher. Our recommended mill rate for 2016-17 is 25.78. This is still well below the current 2015-16 mill rates of the surrounding towns. The proposed fiscal year 16-17 budget continues the town's commitment to providing and funding exceptional services to our residents and our businesses. The recommended budget increases total expenditure by $3,036,978 or a 3.11% increase. We have a transfer of funds within the budget without which the town's budget increase would be 2.71. The 2016-17 budget represents not only the continuation of current service levels for both the town and the Board of Education, but also the expansion of services based on our strategic plan, and it ensures that our capital improvement needs are met. Farmington is a great place to live and work. We remain well positioned in terms of economic development, exceptional education, and provide high-level services without substantially increasing taxes. The Town Council, following the guidelines in the strategic plan, strives to produce a well-balanced budget in order to maintain excellent services and meet the needs of the community. The Town Manager and Board of Ed will now present the details. Thank you.
Good evening. I present for your review the Town Council's recommended budget for the 2016-17 fiscal year. The general fund budget includes the recommended spending for the town, for the school system, for debt service, and for capital improvements. The recommended budget for Westwood's Golf Course, the Recreation Fund, and solid waste collection and disposal are also included for your review. The Town of Farmington's budget is broken down into 3 categories: expenditures, grand lists, and revenues, which are used to develop a tax rate. The recommended budget for fiscal year 16-17 is $100,599,715, an increase of $3,036,978, or 3.11% above the current budget. The recommended town expenditure increase is 4.09%. This includes the transfer of the golf course maintenance accounts of $376,021, or 1.4%, into the general fund. This transfer is offset by the revenues collected by the golf course operation. $332,990 is included in the revenue portion of the budget. The revenue of the golf course offsets the majority of these expenditures. Without the transfer of the golf course operations, the recommended budget is 2.71%. This not only maintains the service levels that residents expect, it enables the expansion of several services. The town expenditure portion of the budget is comprised of 5 areas: general administration, public safety, public works, community recreation, and other. In summary, the general administration has increased by 5.95%. The public safety has increased by 1.33%. The Public Works has increased by 9.37%. It should be noted that this increase, without the addition of the Westwoods Golf Course maintenance account, is 0.53%. The Community and Recreation has decreased by 4.53%, and the other account has increased by 4.06%. I've also separated the budget by object, which includes personnel services, benefits, supplies, equipment, contractual, utilities. The increases for each objective is as follows. Personnel services is 3.9%. Benefits is a 4.1% increase. Supplies is a 2.6%. Equipment is a 7.5% increase. Contractual is a 5.1% increase, and utilities is a 2.5% increase. Highlights of the town expenditures are the town manager's account shows a part-time land consultant position that will manage the town's land acquisition program. The fire hydrant fees in the fire department, fire marshal's budget are projected to increase by 5.9% for the upcoming fiscal year. The community policing account in the police department has been increased to add a new patrol officer position to support traffic efforts in town. The police animal control account shows a reduction due to the use of the Town of Burlington Municipal Animal Shelter over a private kennel to board dogs. The police fleet account includes funding for 3 new 24-hour patrol vehicles and lease payments for 4 unmarked cars and a replacement animal control vehicle. This is in line with our police replacement plan. The Westwoods Golf Course maintenance account has been added to the Highway and Grounds budget. This includes 2 full-time positions and 2 seasonal positions. The engineering account includes funds for a new seasonal construction inspector to assist the department with several large state and town construction projects. The Recreation Department and Westwoods Golf Course has been restructured. This will include consolidation efforts with the Board of Education on recreation programs. The Town Council's recommended town expenditure is $28,229,371, an increase of $1,110,463, or 4.09% above the current expenditures. The debt group of accounts includes appropriations to make principal and interest payments on the town's long-term bonded debt. The total proposed amount for next fiscal year is $6,827,369. This is an increase of $8,749, or 0.13% from the previous year. Debt service payments are flat as a result of the maturing of debt and the refinancing of some existing debt that was undertaken last year. Capital improvements. The general fund appropriations to support the CIP is $2,856,900. Due to the uncertainty of the state budget, the Town Council reduced the capital budget for both the town and the Board of Education at its April 11, 2016 meeting. However, the 2016-17 recommended capital budget is within our goal of contributing at least 2.5% of the general fund revenues to the CIP, and the funding levels still exceed our 5, 10, and 15-year averages. Appropriations were placed into 3 main funding themes. These themes are equipment, infrastructure, and maintenance improvements, technology and communication initiatives, and building improvement renovations. Shown here is a list of recommended general fund cash appropriations to support the CIP. These appropriations will allow us to make significant headway to meet the town's capital improvement needs. The refuse collection budget includes the cost of collecting and disposing of solid and bulky waste generated by town residents in the town's landfill operation. This budget proposes no rate increase. The annual fee will remain at $235 per household. The Board of Education account includes a request of $62,686,075, an increase of 3.8% above the current year's budget. I will now call on Chris Fagan, Chair of the Board of Education, to present the Board of Education budget. Thank you.
Thank you, Kathy. Good evening, Town Council, Board of Education, parents, students, and community members. The 2016 to 2017 Board of Education budget was approved by the Board of Education and Town Council during multiple sessions over the recent budget approval process. The budget reflects the culmination of the board and administration's collaborative and thoughtful efforts and represents a meaningful approach to maintain the high level of performance achieved by our students and schools in the town of Farmington. The budget will continue to allow us to pursue the vision of the Farmington Public School graduate, which, oops, not that one? No, it's not. Is one more? There it is. Okay, I'm sorry. To pursue continue to pursue the vision of the Farmington Public School graduate, which will ensure that each graduate, as stated in the slide behind me, will acquire an understanding of the essential knowledge and skills in the core academic disciplines and develop the thinking and learning skills necessary to meet the challenges of local, national, and global citizenship in a rapidly changing world. As set forth on the slide behind me, the fundamental building blocks of this vision are critical thinking and reasoning, where students access, interpret, analyze, and evaluate ideas and information, draw evidence-based conclusions, synthesize new learning with prior knowledge, and reflect critically on their learning. Second, students participate effectively in a variety of teams, actively listen, and respond to the ideas of others. They share responsibility for outcomes, articulate ideas clearly in multiple formats, and use technology tools to enhance communication. Third, problem solving and innovation. Students identify problems, analyze data, ask questions, and utilize a variety of resources, think flexibly, make connections, and seek practical, innovative, and entrepreneurial solutions. Fourth, self-direction and resourcefulness, where students explore interests, take initiative, set learning goals, demonstrate persistence and effort, adapt to change with resiliency, and exhibit ethical leadership and responsible citizenship. The Board of Education's budget reflects a total budget amount, as stated by Kathy, of $62,686,075, with an overall increase of $2,294 or $2,294,866, or a 3% increase over the 2015-2016 school district budget. The budget includes a continuation and expansion of the Board of Education's 5-year goals. We will continue innovative programming across content areas K through 12 and expand elementary world language programming. The budget also includes supports and special services for students identified with special needs. There is a continued focus on staff and faculty development, technology integrated instruction, curriculum development, and reasonable class size aligned to the Board of Education's class size policy. Now I'll introduce Superintendent of Schools, Kathy Greeter, to provide a more detailed review of the 2016-2017 school district budget.
Thank you, Chairman Chris Fagan. Good evening, members of our Town Council, Board of Education, and Farmington residents. The 2016-17 school district budget was developed to address the Board of Education's mission, 5-year goals, vision of the graduate, and priorities within the budget guidelines, policies of the board, and state and federal requirements. This slide provides the 4 main components of our vision of the graduate, and on this slide you can see examples of our students actively engaged in learning in highly authentic and meaningful ways. The vision of the graduate includes a core body of knowledge and the thinking and learning skills required for success in college and careers. The major budget drivers to arrive at the 3.8% increase are as follows. Salaries, a 1.67% increase of the 3.8% increase, and this accounts for contractual obligations. And benefits, 0.99%, again, contractual obligations. In special services, we have a 1.27% increase. These are special education services driven by need. In services, we have a 0.13% increase, and examples would be our contract with our bus company,
legal services for upcoming negotiations with our teachers and administrative associations, as well as much-needed repairs to buildings, and all other is a decrease of 0.26% to arrive at the 3.8% increase. Here are some examples of our favorable state rankings when it comes to expenditures. I'll highlight only a few of the rankings. There is a relationship between this slide and an upcoming slide on our many and varied accomplishments, excellence in education, and fiscal responsibility and management. The rankings are based on Connecticut's 169 towns, with one spending the most and 169 spending the least. In school-based administration, we're 154th. Farmington administrators on average supervise, develop, and evaluate more teachers than similar districts. This is truly impressive when we look at the state's teacher evaluation guidelines and requirements, increased legislative demands, and our own internal expectations of our administrators. In special education, 153, although we have added positions and programming in special education due to student need, and this is an area that is a major budget driver in this budget, we have done so in a fiscally responsible way given this ranking. Plant services, 143. This speaks to our outstanding custodial and maintenance staff. And in regular education transportation, 129, total transportation, 149, and employee benefits, 147. We have much to be proud of as a community. Farmington continues to be highlighted as the regional, state, and national level for excellence in teaching and learning and student outcomes. This slide highlights some of our accomplishments. Recently, our music department was selected as the one school district in the state of Connecticut to receive the 2016 CAAA Excellence in Arts Education Award. We are a P21 National District Exemplar for excellence in preparing students for success in college, work, and life in an ever-changing world community. And our national and state rankings, FHS continues to rank as a top high school in Connecticut. Our Farmington Public School Foundation has committed to fund a second innovative initiative grant at Farmington High School and IAR for innovative multimedia production labs. Our students are presenting, not just our teachers or administrators, our students are presenting at regional and national conferences, sharing best practices with teachers and administrators with a focus on student-centered teaching and learning. These are just a few of our notable accomplishments. Through the community's investment in our schools, we continue to lead the way in education. The 2016-17 budget presented today maintains and advances the implementation of the Board of Education's visionary 5-year goals, vision of the graduate, and mission. These are the themes of our budget, and our chair, Chris Fagan, had reviewed them at the beginning of the presentation. This slide is one data point of our increased need in special services. This is just one example, but we see an overall trend of increased need for special services support and programming across the district. In addition, we have also experienced a trend of additional student need in special services occurring after our budget has been established and approved, putting stress on our budget due to the unanticipated needs and additional services required. Although we are experiencing increased student need in special services, and this has caused the district to increase services and specialized programming, we continue to take a fiscally responsible approach to excellence in program development and services, as seen on this slide, comparison of special service costs across school districts. We are experiencing many unknowns when it comes to the state level funding. We are in contact with our elected officials at the state level and the State Department of Education to advocate for the needs of our students and school district when it comes to state level grant funding. This slide provides an overview of the reductions totaling over $1 million that occurred in order to arrive at the approved budget level for 2016-17. These cuts have caused us to postpone improvements and reduce programming due to the current budget climate. This is a reflection of the reductions since principals submitted their budgets. This slide provides an overview of the major budget drivers, increases or decreases within each budget driver, and the overall budget increase for the Board of Education's 2016-17 budget, which is a 3.8% increase, or a $2,294,866 increase, and a total budget of $62,686,075. The first driver of the budget is salaries. The budget driver reflects negotiated increases with all of our associations. The salary series reflects a 3.59% increase over this year's budget. This is a budget driver which has experienced reductions throughout the budget process. The second major budget driver is employee benefits. This account provides for 100% of expected paid claims and the administration of our employee health insurance. We are proud to continue to experience employee cost of health care services below the industry average. Stop-loss insurance increases due to a small number of catastrophic claims is a major driver in this year's increase in insurance. There is a 7.03% increase in this account. Services is the next budget driver and includes varied items: public utilities, contracts with Connecticut Natural Gas, professional development, energy savings through our joint board-town performance contract, and special education outplacements. It reflects a 5.45% increase. Special services is a major driver in the 300 series. The supply series is the next budget driver, which reflects a 1.85% decrease. This account provides for facilities used in swimming and ice hockey competitions and for the purchase of a wide range of items such as instructional, health, custodial, computer, and testing supplies. This budget driver has experienced reductions throughout the budget process. Equipment is the next budget driver, the 500 series, and it reflects equipment requests. There is a 26.616% decrease for equipment, including technology equipment. Technology has become an everyday and profound tool for personalization of learning. It is important to note that our technology plan, including vital technology for our students, will be postponed due to reductions to equipment in the 2016-17 budget. Dues and fees are the next budget driver. It reflects a 2.53% decrease. This includes memberships to organizations and liability and property insurance. As noted throughout the presentation, we have made reductions to this budget to arrive at the 3.8% increase over the 2015-16 budget level. In Farmington, it is imperative that we continue to provide a world-class education that enables all students to achieve academic and personal excellence, exhibit persistent effort, and live as resourceful, inquiring, and contributing global citizens. Farmington continues to lead the way in excellence in teaching and learning, as well as student outcomes and achievements. Our financial plan must support and advance these efforts. Our student, faculty, school, and district accomplishments, our continuous improvement efforts, rigorous curriculum, and high-quality programming have contributed to a nationally recognized education here in Farmington. Given our expenditure rankings, we consistently show lower spending as compared to schools across Connecticut. Taken together, we are responsive, both fiscally and in our commitment to excellence in education to our community, and most especially our students. Each one of our students will someday help shape our local, national, and world community. Their education here in Farmington will prepare them and develop in them the knowledge and skills outlined in our vision of the graduate, thus preparing all students for a successful future. Thank you.
The grand list. The grand list is broken down into 3 categories: real estate, personal property, and motor vehicles. The real estate account shows a 0.86% increase. The personal property account shows a 6.78% increase. and the motor vehicles account shows a 0.96% increase. In summary, the grand list increased by 1.2%, or $42,371,023, for a total grand list of $3,574,821,028. Revenues. Revenues are broken down into categories that include other property taxes, license and permits, fines and penalties, interest, grants, service charge, other, and the Westwoods Golf Course contribution. In summary, recommended non-tax revenues are $9,535,204, which is a 4.41% decrease. State and federal grants have been reduced by 9.6% in total. A 1.87% reduction was originally proposed but recent state budget announcements led to further grant reductions. An additional $500,000 has been reduced for a total reduction of 9.6%. The Westwoods maintenance account has been added to the revenue portion of the budget to support the addition of the Westwoods Golf Course maintenance expenses. The recommended general fund budget will require a property tax rate of 25.78 mils. This is an increase of 0.68 mils, or a 2.70 tax increase. The real estate taxes for the average homeowner with a house assessed at $232,074 is $5,981.97 a year, or a 157.05 increase from the prior year. In other words, $100,000 of assessed value equals $2,578 in taxes. This concludes our formal budget presentation. Please remember to vote on Thursday, May 5th at your regular polling place. Thank you.
Okay. Just for the record, Mrs. Ray, the total count of voters present this evening as of 7:10 was 46, assuming we had several late arriving voters. Rounding it up to 50, we're 250 short of a quorum necessary to change the budgets this evening. At this point, I would accept any questions or comments from the audience. Please be mindful that we have microphones. State your name for the record and then ask the question through me. Does anyone wish to be heard on the budget? Yes, sir.
Don Doobie, 94 Oak Ridge. You didn't break out on the state grant, on the grants, what part was state education and federal. And in view of the fact that we will be voting on this budget well before the state legislature decides how much they're really going to grant this town of Farmington, and in view of the fact that they proposed eliminating all state aid to some of the wealthier towns in Fairfield County, my question is, what is the actual state grant to education in Farmington? Question number two is, I realize you've made your best judgment on how much they're going to reduce it, but do we have a contingency plan in case they propose a catastrophic reduction in state aid to town of Farmington? Thank you. I think that goes to the superintendent of schools.
Yes, sir. And so I understand the questions. You are seeking the actual state grant in Farmington. And the second question is there a contingency plan in place in the possibility of disastrous budget? I think, do you want, yeah?
Thank you for your question. Right now, we do not know what our reduction is. The legislative proposal was about $660,000 in our state funding for education grants. We receive on the general fund $1,608,846. That's what we're proposed to get this year. The legislative proposal was a reduction of about $660,000. The governor's proposal was $60,000, so there was quite a swing. We always budget very, very conservatively. We have not budgeted quite a few of our grants or portions of them. We've been in touch with our state representatives. We do have 4 representatives, and at this point, we do feel that we are in good shape as we can be in with the state budget, but we feel our numbers are conservative, and even it's every year we don't know what the numbers are. We've had to meet in April to reduce our grant funding because we were concerned about it. We're still concerned, but right now it's important for us. We need our process. We have to pass our budget. We do have backup plans that the council can always react after the budget if they need to and make changes. We have a fund balance. We have different things that we can do. But right now, I'm relatively confident from everything we've read and what the information that we've heard that our numbers, we're in a position. I'm more concerned about what's going to happen next year because one of the things that does happen is what the state says we're going to get in revenues. Sometimes we don't receive, so we have to factor that in. It's a lot more difficult when you're in the living in the year for the budget and if you don't receive your funding. So we watch that often, but with the information that we have, we're relatively confident that our revenue numbers are good. The other thing, which is unfortunate, but in this type of situation is helpful, is that we do receive such little funding from the state of Connecticut, and I'd be more than happy to give you a breakout of what our funding is, but our state and federal grants in total of last year were $6,350,000. So out of a $100 million budget, it's a small percentage, but every dollar helps. So I hope that has answered your question.
Yes, sir.
Hi, Rakesh Kansara, 74 Alpine Drive. I have a question about the school budget where the salaries and benefits have increased by 3.6% and 7% respectively. This seems higher than the general level of inflation, and I heard that it's driven by some sort of contracts that have been negotiated with whosoever. So we'll appreciate if you can provide some more detail and some rationale as to why this is more than the general level of inflation. Thank you.
Thank you.
The salary increase does reflect contractual obligations, and so I can go over each association's increases. For teachers, they have a 1.75% GWI general wage increase at the max step and a 0.5% at the lower steps plus step. In our administrators, they have a 2.75% increase. Nurses, a 2.75% increase. And classified staff, that's our non-certified staff, our custodians, secretaries, paraprofessionals have a 2% increase.
Does anyone else wish to be heard? Comments or questions about motion number 2? Yes, ma'am.
Good evening, everyone. Beth Kittner, 24 Farmstead Lane in Farmington. I want to thank the members of the town council, the Board of Education, the town manager and the superintendent, and all the staff and all the town offices that work so hard to put a budget together for Farmington. I wanted to start off just by, I've been in town 20 years. I've been involved with budget advocacy in this budget process for about 5 years now. And I just wanted to speak to how things are kind of looking to me, and as president of Farmington Future also. This year, we again saw some Board of Education members making or attempting to make unnecessary and potentially harmful cuts to our schools in the areas of technology and elementary world language instruction, and that was very disheartening for a lot of the parents involved in that process. Later down the road, as we moved to the town council budget workshops, the town council voted to cut the Board of Education proposed budget by $347,000. This cut ended up resulting in the loss of support staff to help communicate the school district's achievements to the larger community, which I think was a real potential good addition to the budget. It also resulted in reductions to our technology, equipment replacements for students, supplies and textbooks, major repairs to facilities to our aging schools, reduction in staffing at our summer school program, and additional reduction in staffing to a very important reading recovery program. I think in a town like Farmington, where we pride ourselves in our schools, this was very unfortunate this year. Cuts to things like programs, equipment, and upkeeps to our facilities just shouldn't be happening at that level here. So the only reason I could see for these cuts throughout the discussion through the budget workshops was to bring the tax rate down from 2.584 mil to 25.78, a difference of $14.80 per year to the average homeowner in Farmington. This year, during the town's first public hearing and budget workshops that followed, we saw more residents expressing their support for the education budget to be kept whole at public comment and within written communication to public officials as well, much more than in past years. Most of those residents have since expressed quite a lot of disappointment and discouragement related to the budget process. While perhaps the cuts to the education budget could have been worse, these residents saw the town council make major cuts that led to significant impact to our schools with little justification. And the council then made further cuts to the schools in response to these potential reductions by the state that we were hearing about. I will, of course, be voting yes in support of this budget. I do that every year in support of our great town and the schools and the offerings that we have here. It's a great place to live. I encourage everyone else in town to do that as well. But as president of Farmington Future, I can say that while we have our small contingent of strong budget advocates, considering the sentiment of so many that were involved this year, both new and existing advocates in the process, I can tell you that our advocacy efforts in getting out the vote won't be anywhere near what it was in previous years. There's just not the support for that. Joining Farmington Future's efforts to get out the vote takes a certain amount of enthusiasm and buy-in towards the recommended budget. People need to feel that the budget is responsive to and more than adequate for all of our residents. People need to feel good about what they're going to be promoting when they come work with us to hand out flyers all over town, make phone calls, and do the other hard work that we are involved in. I'm seeing that the course of this year's budget process over the recent weeks has significantly decreased people's enthusiasm for advocating for this budget. We will do our best to get the word out. We have a strong core group of advocates still in line with us, and we will do what we can to support this budget and get the word out. But it seems that there's been damage done to our potential for organizing a strong advocacy effort this year. Again, I will be voting yes in support of this budget. I certainly wouldn't want to see any more reductions, and again, I do that every year in support of our town, and I encourage others as well. I also encourage town residents and voters to spread the word to their neighbors, friends, and family in town in this important time of year. It's an important time to vote. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am, thank you. Does anyone else wish to be heard? Anyone else? Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Mr. Hoheb.
One moment.
There was an earlier question on the salary line and why it was at the percentage of a 3.87, and what I failed to include in that was one of the slides that I provided in my presentation were the major budget drivers, one of which was special services. So of the 3.8% overall increase, it accounts for 1.27% or $765,408 of the 3.8% increase. So in our Q&A, we do explain the special education driver, and for salary. So if you looked at salaries alone and you looked at the 3.87% increase, which is about $1.5 million, $487,386 of that increase is for special services. Special services are required services for children with IEP special needs. So not only do we have each association having their contractual increase, there's also this outside of those increases, a budget driver for special services that is close to about $500,000 of that salary increase. So I just wanted to make sure I fully answered the question.
Thank you. Yes, sir.
Thank you. My name is Mike Clark. I live at 13 Tanglewood Road. And, just a reaction to the prior speaker there, I have a tremendous enthusiasm for this budget. I think it takes into consideration both the schools as well as the town. I've seen this auditorium packed in prior years. And the fact that there's only 46 to 50 people here, generally, to me, that means there's a lot of people out there, probably about 15,000 voters, who are tremendously satisfied with the services they're getting both in the schools and also from the town. And the one word that I kept hearing was cut. And I think it's really important for anyone to understand that there were no cuts in this budget. There were cuts from the proposed budgets. But I think if the town manager and the superintendent could point out that it's both received increases in their overall budgets. So there's no cuts from any prior year's budgets. We are moving forward. We see the capital improvement plan, which I'm very impressed with. And again, both to the Board of Ed and to the Town Council, I think you did a marvelous job. And keep up the good work, because the people I talk to in town just love this town, and it's a fabulous place for our kids and for those who, I had 4 kids go through those, and I'm still here and glad to be here. So thanks for all the good work, folks.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Does anyone else wish to be heard on motion number 2? Yes, ma'am.
Hello, I'm Emily Pettit, 30 Dunwood Court. And I just, again, would like to thank everybody for all their work and effort. And as a parent with 3 children in the elementary schools, I respect the fact that we want to be as fiscally responsible as we can, and I think that our superintendent does an amazing job being fiscally responsible and looking at her slides and seeing how we do that. But my question to the town council is, if we continue to cut lean budgets, and I understand that there are the proposed cuts, but when we have to have increases due to contractual obligations, if we continue to cut lean budgets, how long will we be able to see that slide of all of our amazing accomplishments? Every year, it seems like technology gets put on the back burner so that we can try to keep the amazing programs that we have for our kids. So for the future, I will support this budget because I don't want to see anything else reduced, but I hope for the future we can keep that in mind. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. Does anyone else wish to be heard? Yes, sir.
Ned Stachin, 6 Bella Lane. My question is the town manager. This additional position in the police department, what is the need for that? I thought you said it was traffic, and if you just explain the need for the additional police officer.
I can. The town of Farmington, during their survey for the strategic plan, one of their goals was that traffic is the #1 issue in the town of Farmington, and not just traffic on the main roadways, but traffic in the neighborhoods and things of that nature. So presently, the police department does not have an officer specifically dedicated to traffic issues in town. The police department receives over 22,000 calls for service in 2015. Consequently, traffic enforcement is sporadically conducted by district officers who have to go for calls for service. This new traffic position would include the following responsibilities. They would be a liaison to the Traffic Review Board. They would be a permanent member of the Traffic Review Board responsible for enforcement, research, and reports on complaints and issues from the neighborhoods. They'd be the direct contact for the public, for the DOT. They would host and facilitate community educational meetings in neighborhoods. They would be primarily responsible to gain a voluntary compliance to motor vehicle laws and town codes through meetings, education, and enforcement. They would address specific areas of citizens' complaints. They would target problem or high-risk areas, high accident rates, high rates of citizens' complaints, pedestrian and bicycle areas. This person would not be doing road work, traffic flagging and those types of things. It's our understanding that other communities have implemented this community traffic enforcement and have had very positive results. So based on the strategic plan and the town council goals, we are looking to hire a new officer who would be part of this division.
Thank you. Yes, sir.
Good evening, Demetrius Gianaros, 56 Basswood Road. I want to thank everybody. I know how hard it is to put together a budget, balance it, and come up with something that works from a financial point of view. I think you've done it, but on the other hand, I have to remind everybody that education is not spending. Education is, in economics and in any other financial book you can open up, it's called human capital investment. Human capital investment, it's not spending. You're investing. The golf course is spending, not investment. So having said that, the only thing that I would ask of you one of the things that I would recommend, I know it's tough at the state level, and they are fighting at this point where the money is going to be cut. I don't think they're going to cut as much from the ECS formula, based on my 16-year experience at the state capitol. That's an item that every one of us fought for, and I think they will do again, and they're going to bring that value that has been cut down, so you're not going to be cut as much based on my own prediction. So if that happens, the only thing I ask of all of you, consider to find some way to put a little more money into world languages. That is cheating our kids if you're cutting back on international languages. We're cheating their future because this is a world economy. It's not a Farmington economy. And the last thing I want to ask you is, I was really disappointed to see that you had to cut so much out of equipment. That again is investment in our kids' future, and we have to find some way to replenish. Thank you.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Yes, sir.
Dave Huff, 4 Cobblestone Road. I want to thank the Board of Ed and the Town Council for putting together the budget tonight, and while I'm sure that there are many ways in which I, along with other Farmington residents, would hope that there were not going to be any increases in the mill rate. Looking over this year, the state of our current state, the state of the town, and how well things are going here in town, this is a budget for grown-ups, and I appreciate that, and I just want to say thank you for the hard work and the efforts you did and performed to put this together. And I'm sure that all of our kids in our fine schools, as they learn about economics and they learn about budgeting, realize that when hard times come, when things get difficult and we don't have all the money we wish we had, then cuts have to happen, or, as in this case, proposed budgets are less than we might want them to be. That's something that even my 6- and 8-year-olds can understand. I'm sure our high school students understand it. And I look forward to a vote in favor of this budget with the understanding that most of the town's residents understand that as well. So just wanted to say thanks.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Does anyone else wish to be heard? Questions, comments? Yes, ma'am.
Hi, my name is Dawn Ruland Polking. I'm at 16 Pequabic Lane in Farmington. And there have been cuts made to the education budget. One in particular does affect the children, and I'm not sure if everyone realizes that, but I'm here to plead with you not to cut the Reading Recovery program again. I have a 3rd grader that was in the program when he was in kindergarten. I have a degree in early childhood education. I have 4 kids in elementary school. I I have two 9-year-olds, a 10-year-old, and an 11-year-old. I could teach 3 of my kids to read with a degree in early childhood. I couldn't teach my son to read. The program has done fantastic things for him. It was very difficult for him in school, and I can't say enough good things about it. And for all the people that think there were not cuts to education, that's simply not true. So if you could find a way to make cuts in the future that do not directly affect the children, it would be very much appreciated. Thank you very much. I appreciate all the work you do.
Yes, ma'am, thank you. Does anyone else wish to be heard? Questions, comments of the Board of Education, Town Council? Yes, sir.
My name is Paul Kicks, 53 Garden Street. I just want to say what many people here have said. First, thank you for putting together this budget. I know it was not easy to do, especially given the recent cuts the recent grant that affected our budget. I was one of the people who spoke that night. I spoke previously about it. I just want to echo what the previous speaker said. There were cuts. Reading recovery is something that I too hold very, very near and dear to my heart. My daughter just went through it this year, and I saw how wonderful she responded, and if possible, would love to see that. I believe it is a part-time teacher. Would love to see that restored next year. That's about it. Thank you for your time.
Yes, sir, thank you. Comments, questions on motion number 2? Does anyone else wish to be heard on motion number 2? Anyone else? Last call? Okay, thank you. We will now move to motion number 3. Before I read the actual motion, may I have a motion to waive the reading of the resolution for motion number 3, of which copies are available on the tables outside? Is there such a motion? And a second. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? The motion carries. May I have a motion to move the third item contained in the warning that the town of Farmington appropriate $4 million for repairs to and construction of various town roads and drainage systems, and further authorize the issuance of bonds and notes in the same amount to financial said appropriation. Do I have a motion and then a second? And a second. Second. I'll now open up the presentation to Kathleen Egan, Town Manager.
The recommended budget includes a bonding question to appropriate $4 million to road reconstruction. Here is an overview of the proposed road reconstruction that will be completed over the next 3 years. This slide shows the northwest section of town, which includes a portion of Lake Garda, roads off of 167 and Route 177, and an area off of West District Road. This slide shows the south central section of town, which includes Pinnacle Road and a portion of Farmington Village roads. This slide shows the northeast section of town, which includes Oakland Gardens. The bond will have a tax rate impact of 0.110 mils, which is a cost of $25.53 a year to the average home assessed at $232,074. That is with an anticipated 3.10% rate at 15 years.
Okay, we've had a motion, a second, a presentation. Is there anyone in the audience that wishes to be heard on motion number 3 pertaining to the town of Farmington appropriation of $4 million? I thought this would be the most exciting motion of the evening. Am I wrong? Anybody here wish to be heard on this motion? Anyone on this side of the room wish to be heard on this motion? Okay, seeing no response, is there anything else on this? Okay, so I'm going to move on to motion number 4. Prior to reading that motion, may I have a motion to waive the reading of the resolution for this item? Again, copies are available on the table outside. Do I hear a motion? And a second. All those in favor say aye. Motion carries. We're waiving the reading of the resolution. Now the motion 4. May I have a motion to move the 4th item contained in the warning that the town of Farmington appropriate $600,000 for the acquisition of a pumper fire engine to be stationed at the Southwest Fire Station, and authorize the issuance of bonds and notes in the same amount to finance said appropriation. Do we have a motion? And a second. And now I call upon Kathleen Egan, Town Manager, for presentation.
The recommended budget includes a second bonding question to appropriate $600,000 for the replacement of Engine 3 at Southwest Fire Station. The bond will have a tax rate impact of .020 mils, which is a cost of $4.64 per year to the average homeowner, assessed at $232,074.
Okay, I'm back. Any questions or comments pertaining to motion number 4 regarding the warning item, Town of Farmington appropriation of $600,000 for the acquisition of a pumper fire engine? Questions on the right? Questions? Yes. Yes, sir.
Ned Stachin, 6 Bella Lane. Just a quick question. How old is the piece of equipment we're replacing?
Anyone know that?
20 years. $20 years old.
Thank you.
Anyone else wish to be heard on motion number 4, the appropriation of $600,000 for the acquisition of a pumper fire engine? Going once. Going twice. No one wishes to be heard. Any comments, questions? Now, motion number 5. We're moving to motion number 5. Any other business to come before this town meeting tonight? Looking left, looking right. I see nothing. I'll ask in a moment for a motion that this annual town meeting be adjourned to referendum vote on resolutions considered pursuant to the items in the annual town meeting notice to be held on Thursday, May 5th, 2016, between the hours of 6 a.m. and 8 p.m. at the polling places indicated in the notice. All those in favor of adjournment say aye. Opposed? The adjournment carries. Thank you, everyone, for participating.